sometimes people will ask me like, did you were you ever scared? And the answer is yeah, I was. And one of the times that was the scariest for me was actually on a sniper overwatch on my first deployment, where we started getting mortared. And so to like kind of unpack that, typically we would, we'd go in at night, and we would take a house that we thought would give us good sight lines for whatever we wanted to watch. And one day we were watching, I think we were watching MSR Michigan for people planning VBIDs, or not VBIDs, I'm sorry, IEDs. And we also knew that some partner forces were going to be patrolling through that area, so we wanted to make sure that if they came under contact that we could support them. And so I remember we came in, in the middle of the night. There was a family in the house, and when there is, and there often was, you can do a couple things. You can either make them stay in the house, or you can let them go. And either way, especially at that point in the war, that was in 2006, the locals kind of knew what was going on, whether you let them out or you kept them, because they would kind of check in on people, because they knew that type of stuff happened. Like if the Ryan family didn't come out, send their kids to school by 0800, they knew there was a good chance the Americans were in their house, right? Or if you let them go, they're probably going to tell people, hey, there's Americans in our house. And so I remember going in there, and then, taking this house that we thought had good sight lines, and then getting all set up and ready to go for the next day. And as a new guy, my job wasn't to be on a sniper rifle. My job was to hold security. And so I remember my job was to watch the west side of the house. And so I found a good spot by a window a little bit back into the room where I could watch, pretty much everything that was going down on the left side of the house. And, I took off a lot of my gear, but just had like my frags like laid out by the window. And I had a Mark 48 machine gun. And, as the sun came up, and most of our snipers, we probably had 4 or 5 snipers on the op. Most of them were facing north, watching this MSR Michigan, road that was out in front of the house. And I remember, I don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe an hour or so after daylight, one of our snipers took a shot, killed a bad guy. And then probably 3 or 4 more times our snipers started engaging people. And I remember one of them shot this guy in this car on my side of the house, where I could see it. Like it was shot him through a car windshield, like the front windshield. I remember looking out the side of my window, and sure enough, this right in the driver's side, front of this windshield had a big old spider vein bullet hole in it. And this guy was dead. One of our snipers shot him through the head. And it got pretty eerie really quick, because the sniper shot him right in front of a school.
Oh.
And so I was watching this. Everybody's amped up. Shots are being fired. We're starting to kill bad guys. And I remember probably 10 minutes later, a bunch of women and children. First, a couple women or a couple kids, I think, came out, saw it. And then the screaming started, right? These women and children are just screaming and crying. And then I remember them pulling his dead body out of the car and pulling him into the school. And my spidey senses were started going through the roof. It just made my spidey senses knew.
Yeah.
They were like, there's no better way to start a fight than to rile up women and children, because as they get riled up, emotions start getting riled up, and then people want revenge. And I just knew it. I knew we were going to get hit. And so sure enough, like 45 minutes later, the small arms start, first it's indirect. You can just hear it cracking over the heads. And then it starts getting more direct, and you can start to hear it, hitting the building a little bit. And, everybody's on full alert, just ready to rock and roll. And I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, the first mortar, hear it pop up in the air. And there's a guy named Mike, one of our snipers, who was on the same level as me. We weren't on the roof. We were on the level below the roof. And he had propped his Mark 11 up on a desk, and that's what he was using as his platform. And
Mark 11's a sniper rifle for those that
Mark
don't
11
know.
is like a sniperized AR-10 or a 7.62 magazine fed sniper rifle with a suppressor on it. And I remember Mike. Mike was a badass. Like, Mike was, tough as nails. Definitely the type of guy you don't want to mess with. And I remember as soon as that first, mortar round popped up in the air, I heard Mike's voice change. And he yells over to me. He's like, "Take cover." And I was like, if Mike's telling me that, and I can hear it in his voice, this is serious. And so first mortar round comes up, hear it explode, not a direct hit. And then they just start popping these mortar rounds up in the air. And I'll tell you, Shawn, I don't think I've ever been as scared in my life, because it is like the movies, man. You can hear those things whistling through the air. And the difference, like when you get shot at, it happens so fast, you don't really have time to be scared, right? But with mortar rounds incoming, and you can hear those things whistling for 5-6 seconds in the air, the whole time you're thinking, is this it? I wonder if this is a direct hit, if this hits this house, we're done. And thankfully, these guys really didn't want it. I could tell they didn't want an extended fight. They kind of wanted to just see if they could hit us with the mortar rounds and then get the hell out of here, so we didn't pinpoint their location and kill them. But because I think they only launched like 4 or 5 mortar rounds. One of them, I do remember one of them, though, hit on the west side of the house, probably like 60 yards from my window, and frag, flew up and through the window. And that was, pretty close. But I'm just glad that, they were off on their shots. But then our AOIC at the time called in Artie, and from Habanilla. And that was pretty cool to hear the big guns start going off in the distance, and then the tree line that we thought we were taking the mortars from, started getting rocked, and the fight was over at that point. But that's a scary feeling, man. Not only hearing mortar rounds, whistle through the air and not knowing where they're going to hit, and you're taking small arms fire, but like when you're in a sniper overwatch or a situation like that, you're usually in one of the worst neighborhoods on planet Earth, and there's like 10 to 15 of you, and you're in somebody else's city, and you're constantly thinking, how many bad guys can they muster to send at us?
Yeah.
And when you know that you're probably not going to get extracted till nightfall, because nobody wants to risk the vehicles in the daylight, which, we didn't always own. We usually own the night. That we could be in for it, for a while.
Yeah. It's like a feeling. I've been in a couple of similar situations, and it's like the feeling of helplessness. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You can't figure out where it's coming from. If you can, like it's the tree line, you can't.
Yeah.
There's no target to shoot. You're just going to eat it. and hope it stops soon. You know, hope you don't eat it and hope it stops soon. And it's completely out of your control.
Yeah.
But yeah, damn. How did you guys get out of there?
Like I said, I think on that op we were gonna stay for a couple days, but I think they decided to pull us. I think they pulled us that night, and as soon as it got nightfall, we went to a rally point, and our guys came in and picked us up.
Yeah. Other team guys or?
Yeah.
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 Damn. And when you say 10 to 15 guys, they're spread out in different OPs, right? Not
On
all
that
in
one,
house.
we were all in the same. We were all in that one. We were all in the same house. But yeah, that does happen sometimes where you spread them out. But I want to say there were probably 10, 12 guys on that op.
Okay.
And then we had our partner force was downstairs holding security. But yeah, it was it was an interesting, definitely. And that was probably it wasn't the closest call I've ever had, but it was the most scared I've ever been in combat, just because the anticipation factor that come with mortars, and you just being able to hear it for 5-6 seconds before it hits somewhere, and you're wondering where it's going to hit. That.
Yeah. What was the closest call?
The closest call would have been on my next platoon, my third and final platoon, and we got ambushed by three guys at about 110 yards.
Oh.
And I was like laying in the street, nowhere to go, just watching tracer rounds just fly over us.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, man. I was point man that night, and so I was leading us. We had like a 600 yard patrol into the target house that we were going to hit, and we were going after a dude that was making V-bids and IEDs, and just a really bad dude. And unfortunately, it was the first night that we'd given our partner force the 8-digit grid coordinates of the target that we were going to hit, and sure enough, we got lit up. That's been going on in warfare for a long time. Just partner forces playing both sides of the fence, and it was kind of surreal, just because there were, I think, two guys had AKs, and then one guy had it looked like an RPK, a belt-fed heavy machine gun, and he had belted together probably two belts, probably 200 rounds of tracer, so you could just see every round just like flying over your head. And thank God they were shooting, maybe a foot or so high, and so none of us got hit. But when I went back that night and looked at it on the because we had a Predator, we had 2 Apaches, and then a C-130 overhead, and I watched the Predator feed, and we actually used some of the tools to like measure how far we were from them. And it was 110 yards, which is that's not far for those type of weapons at all. So that was definitely my closest call.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes, so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.